The Love Letters of Mary Wollstonecraft, Part 6, Letters 50 to 58. In the last part, the darkest moments had passed. Now, her letters reveal a woman who continues forward with quiet determination. You may occasionally hear an unfinished name, or only a title, such as Mr. or Doctor. Those omissions are part of the surviving historical text, where certain names were removed by later editors. They have been preserved exactly as they appear in the original publication. Every uncertainty, every heartbreak, remains exactly as she left it more than 2 centuries ago. Welcome to She Reads Tales. And now, her love letters. Letter 50. June 20th, 1795, Saturday. This is the 5th dreary day I have been imprisoned by the wind, with every outward object to disgust the senses, and unable to banish the remembrances that sadden my heart. How am I altered by disappointment? When going to Lisbon 10 years ago, the elasticity of my mind was sufficient to ward off weariness, and the imagination still could dip her brush in the rainbow of fancy and sketch futurity in smiling colors. Now I am going towards the north in search of sunbeams. Will any ever warm this desolated heart? All nature seems to frown, or rather mourn, with me. Everything is cold, cold as my expectations. Before I left the shore, tormented as I now am by these northeast chillers, I could not help exclaiming, "Give me, gracious heaven, at least genial weather, if I am never to meet the genial affection that still warms this agitated bosom, compelling life to linger there." I am now going on shore with the captain, though the weather be rough, to seek for milk and so forth at a little village, and to take a walk, after which I hope to sleep. For, confined here, surrounded by disagreeable smells, I have lost the little appetite I had, and I lie awake, till thinking almost drives me to the brink of madness. Only to the brink, for I never forget, even in the feverish slumbers I sometimes fall into, the misery I am laboring to blunt the sense of by every exertion in my power. Poor, still continues sick and grows weary when the weather will not allow her to remain on deck. I hope this will be the last letter I shall write from England to you. Are you not tired of this lingering adieu? Yours truly, Mary. Letter 51. Hull, June 21st, 1795, Sunday morning. The captain last night, after I had written my letter to you intended to be left at a little village, offered to go to pass today. We had a troublesome sail, and now I must hurry on board again, for the wind has changed. I half expected to find a letter from you here. Had you written one haphazard, it would have been kind and considerate. You might have known, had you thought, that the wind would not permit me to depart. These are attentions, more grateful to the heart than offers of service. But why do I foolishly continue to look for them? Adieu, adieu, my friend. Your friendship is very cold. You see I am hurt. God bless you. I may perhaps be, some time or other, independent in every sense of the word. Ah, there is but one sense of it of consequence. I will break or bend this weak heart, yet even now it is full. Yours sincerely, Mary. The child is well. I did not leave her on board. Letter 52. Gothenburg, June 27th, Saturday, 1795. I arrived in Gothenburg this afternoon, after vainly attempting to land at Arendal. I have now but a moment before the post goes out to inform you we have got here, though not without considerable difficulty, for we were set ashore in a boat above 20 miles below. What I suffered in the vessel I will not now descant upon, nor mention the pleasure I received from the sight of the rocky coast. This morning, however, walking to join the carriage that was to transport us to this place, I fell, without any previous warning, senseless on the rocks, and how I escaped with life I can scarcely guess. I was in a stupor for a quarter of an hour. The suffusion of blood at last restored me to my senses. The contusion is great, and my brain confused. The child is well. 20 miles ride in the rain, after my accident, has sufficiently deranged me. And here I could not get a fire to warm me, or anything warm to eat. The inns are mere stables. I must nevertheless go to bed. For God's sake, let me hear from you immediately, my friend. I am not well, and yet you see I cannot die. Yours sincerely, Mary. Letter 53. Gothenburg, June 29th, 1795. I wrote to you by the last post to inform you of my arrival, and I believe I alluded to the extreme fatigue I endured on shipboard, owing to illness and the roughness of the weather. I likewise mentioned to you my fall, the effects of which I still feel, though I do not think it will have any serious consequences. Will go with me if I find it necessary to go to... The inns here are so bad. I was forced to accept of an apartment in his house. I am overwhelmed with civilities on all sides, and fatigued with the endeavors to amuse me from which I cannot escape. My friend, I am not well. A deadly weight of sorrow lies heavily on my heart. I am again tossed on the troubled billows of life, and obliged to cope with difficulties without being buoyed up by the hopes that alone render them bearable. How flat, dull, and unprofitable appears to me all the bustle into which I see people here so eagerly enter. I long every night to go to bed, to hide my melancholy face in my pillow, but there is a cankerworm in my bosom that never sleeps. Mary. Letter 54. Sweden, July 1st, 1795. I labor in vain to calm my mind. My soul has been overwhelmed by sorrow and disappointment. Everything fatigues me. This is a life that cannot last long. It is you who must determine with respect to futurity, and when you have, I will act accordingly. I mean, we must either resolve to live together or part forever. I cannot bear these continual struggles. But I wish you to examine carefully your own heart and mind. And if you perceive the least chance of being happier without me than with me, or if your inclination leans capriciously to that side, do not dissemble, but tell me frankly that you will never see me more. I will then adopt the plan I mentioned to you, for we must either live together or I will be entirely independent. My heart is so oppressed I cannot write with precision. You know, however, that what I so imperfectly express are not the crude sentiments of the moment. You can only contribute to my comfort. It is the consolation I am in need of by being with me. And if the tenderest friendship is of any value, why will you not look to me for a degree of satisfaction that heartless affections cannot bestow? Tell me then, will you determine to meet me at Basel? I shall, I should imagine, be at before the close of August. And after you settle your affairs at Paris, could we not meet there? God bless you. Yours truly, Mary. Poor Fanny has suffered during the journey with her teeth, Letter 55. Sweden, July 3rd, 1795. There was a gloominess diffused through your last letter, the impression of which still rests on my mind. Though, recollecting how quickly you throw off the forcible feelings of the moment, I flatter myself it has long since given place to your usual cheerfulness. Believe me, and my eyes fill with tears of tenderness as I assure you, there is nothing I would not endure in the way of privation rather than disturb your tranquility. If I am fated to be unhappy, I will labor to hide my sorrows in my own bosom, and you shall always find me a faithful, affectionate friend. I grow more and more attached to my little girl, and I cherish this affection without fear, because it must be a long time before it can become bitterness of soul. She is an interesting creature. On shipboard, how often as I gazed at the sea, have I longed to bury my troubled bosom in the less troubled deep, asserting with Brutus that the virtue I had followed too far was merely an empty name. And nothing but the sight of her, her playful smiles, which seemed to cling and twine round my heart, could have stopped me. What peculiar misery has fallen to my share? To act up to my principles, I have laid the strictest restraint on my very thoughts. Yes, not to sully the delicacy of my feelings, I have reined in my imagination, and started with affright from every sensation I allude to, that stealing with balmy sweetness into my soul, led me to scent from afar the fragrance of reviving nature. My friend, I have dearly paid for one conviction. Love, in some minds, is an affair of sentiment, arising from the same delicacy of perception or taste as renders them alive to the beauties of nature, poetry, and so forth, alive to the charms of those evanescent graces that are, as it were, impalpable. They must be felt, they cannot be described. Love is a want of my heart. I have examined myself lately with more care than formerly, and find that to deaden is not to calm the mind. Aiming at tranquility, I have almost destroyed all the energy of my soul, almost rooted out what renders it estimable. Yes, I have damped that enthusiasm of character which converts the grossest materials into a fuel, that imperceptibly feeds hopes which aspire above common enjoyment. Despair, since the birth of my child, has rendered me stupid. Soul and body seem to be fading away before the withering touch of disappointment. I am now endeavoring to recover myself, and such is the elasticity of my constitution and the purity of the atmosphere here, that health unsought for begins to reanimate my countenance. I have the sincerest esteem and affection for you, but the desire of regaining peace, do you understand me, has made me forget the respect due to my own emotions, sacred emotions, that are the sure harbingers of the delights I was formed to enjoy, and shall enjoy, for nothing can extinguish the heavenly spark. Still, when we meet again, I will not torment you, I promise you. I blush when I recollect my former conduct, and will not in future confound myself with the beings whom I feel to be my inferiors. I will listen to delicacy or pride. Letter 56. Sweden, July 4th, 1795. I hope to hear from you by tomorrow's mail. My dearest friend, I cannot tear my affections from you, and though every remembrance stings me to the soul, I think of you, till I make allowance for the very defects of character that have given such a cruel stab to my peace. Still, however, I am more alive than you have seen me for a long, long time. I have a degree of vivacity, even in my grief, which is preferable to the benumbing stupor that for the last year has frozen up all my faculties. Perhaps this change is more owing to returning health than to the vigor of my reason, for, in spite of sadness, and surely I have had my share, the purity of this air and the being continually out in it, for I sleep in the country every night, has made an alteration in my appearance that really surprises me. The rosy fingers of health already streak my cheeks, and I have seen a physical life in my eyes after I have been climbing the rocks that resembled the fond, credulous hopes of youth. With what a cruel sigh have I recollected that I had forgotten to hope. Reason, or rather experience, does not thus cruelly damp poor pleasures. She plays all day in the garden with children and makes friends for herself. Do not tell me that you are happier without us. Will you not come to us in Switzerland? Ah, why do not you love us with more sentiment? Why are you a creature of such sympathy that the warmth of your feelings, or rather quickness of your senses, hardens your heart? It is my misfortune that my imagination is perpetually shading your defects and lending you charms, whilst the grossness of your senses makes you, call me not vain, overlook graces in me that only dignity of mind and the sensibility of an expanded heart can give. God bless you. Adieu. Letter 57. Sweden, July 7th, 1795. I could not help feeling extremely mortified last post at not receiving a letter from you. My being at was but a chance, and you might have hazarded it, and would a year ago. I shall not, however, complain. There are misfortunes so great as to silence the usual expressions of sorrow. Believe me, there is such a thing as a broken heart. There are characters whose very energy preys upon them, and who, ever inclined to cherish by reflection some passion, cannot rest satisfied with the common comforts of life. I have endeavored to fly from myself and launched into all the dissipation possible here, only to feel keener anguish when alone with my child. Still, could anything please me, had not disappointment cut me off from life? This romantic country, these fine evenings would interest me. My God, can anything, and am I ever to feel alive only to painful sensations? But it cannot, it shall not last long. The post is again arrived. I have sent to seek for letters, only to be wounded to the soul by a negative. My brain seems on fire. I must go into the air. Mary. Letter 58. Lorvig, Norway, July 14th, 1795. I am now on my journey to Tonsberg. I felt more at leaving my child than I thought I should, and whilst at night I imagined every instant that I heard the half-formed sounds of her voice, I asked myself how I could think of parting with her forever, of leaving her thus helpless. Poor lamb. It may run very well in a tale that God will temper the winds to the shorn lamb, but how can I expect that she will be shielded when my naked bosom has had to brave continually the pitiless storm? Yes, I could add, with poor Lear, what is the war of elements to the pangs of disappointed affection, and the horror arising from a discovery of a breach of confidence that snaps every social tie? All is not right somewhere. When you first knew me, I was not thus lost. I could still confide, for I opened my heart to you. Of this only comfort you have deprived me, whilst my happiness, you tell me, was your first object. Strange want of judgment. I will not complain, but from the soundness of your understanding, I am convinced, if you give yourself leave to reflect, you will also feel that your conduct to me, so far from being generous, has not been just. I mean not to allude to factitious principles of morality, but to the simple basis of all rectitude. However, I did not intend to argue. Your not writing is cruel, and my reason is perhaps disturbed by constant wretchedness. Poor, would fain have accompanied me out of tenderness. For my fainting, or rather convulsion, when I landed, and my sudden changes of countenance since, have alarmed her so much that she is perpetually afraid of some accident. But it would have injured the child this warm season, as she is cutting her teeth. I hear not of your having written to me at Stromstad. Very well. Act as you please. There is nothing I fear or care for. When I see whether I can or cannot obtain the money I am come here about, I will not trouble you with letters to which you do not reply. Thank you for being here and sharing this journey with me. I'll see you in the next part, here on She Reads Tales.